Hey everybody, and thanks for watching Woodcrest Bonsai. Today I'm going to rehabilitate these 4 Premna. And as you can see, they have some decent structure and there's some decent branching, but some of them have no branches and some of them have branches that have elongated far too long. Some of them have dead apexes which need to be rebuilt, and they are all profoundly root bound. So I'm going to take each one individually, work on the top, cut back all the excess growth, try to create some more form out of the tree, and then repot them because they are, like I said, they're profoundly root bound. And you will see. So I'm going to start with the little guy right here. So I'm going to change the angle of the camera and then we'll go from there. This first tree has some decent movement. It also has this kind of weird thing here, but that's actually coming from the back. And it is sprouting. There is brand new growth, just barely coming. Like right there. However, you want to talk about root bound. Just incredibly root bound. So the first order of business is, what am I going to do with the top? And I don't really like this part here. I don't like this part here at all. So I'm going to take it off. I'll probably leave a little bit of a stub here to get some kind of back branch, depth. But I'm taking that off completely. And then this guy could probably be wired into here. So it's going to be a funky little, maybe even a bunjin feel. And then for the roots, believe it or not, you see that hole right there? Way up in there, there's the window screen that's supposed to be on the bottom hole of the pot. So I don't think my root hook is really going to work. So I'm just going to do it with my fingers. And this was in a fully organic landscape mix. And one beauty of Premna is they are tough. They're not hardy, because botanically hardiness simply means the ability to withstand freezing. And they are not hardy at all. Trying to get that screen out of there. There we go. So I've got a root right here that I really don't like. So it's going to come off. And by the time I'm done with this thing, it's almost going to be like a glorified cutting. However, they root super easily from cuttings. So the fact that there's not going to be many roots left really isn't going to be that detrimental to the health of the tree. Going to give it a little bit of a cut like this. It's got nice moss. And it's going to go right back into the same pot. Get rid of some more of those leaves. And there's still some of the mesh left in there, which since the tree just ignored it in the first place, I don't think that's going to be that big of a deal either. Okay. So it's got nice nabari. And we got this little piece here that could almost become gin. Right there. Premna is actually very soft wood, so it doesn't really hold gin well. So now I'm going to take the old roots off of here. And then I think I can salvage. Nope, I can't. So then I'm going to still use window screen. Window screen works for me. And then add a little bit of soil. And this is rocky landscape soil. And then put the tree back in there. And I like the proportions of the tree to the pot. And then just add more soil. This guy's going to get a pretty healthy fertilization once it begins to sprout. Get all that soil in there. And you know, I really hate to admit it, but the reason these trees all look like this is just benign neglect. That's all I can tell you. I confess. They've just sort of sat on the bench, and I just blindly water them. And you know, when I see them, I say, man, I really need to do something with those. And so now is the time of the year. Even though it's only February 1st, we are already in the 80s here in Zone 10 in Florida. So there we go. Now, do I wire that guy into place? I suppose I could. We've got a little extra wire sitting here. So let's wire that guy into place. Oops, just snapped it. Not the first time. All right, there we go. Now it's got brand new sprouting right here, and I'm pretty confident that it's going to sprout all over the place. So that's the first one. So how are we doing with the second one? Let's do this guy. He's a little too big, so let's zoom out a little bit. Okay. Now this one has some pretty nice movement. The trouble is that all this stuff up here is all dead. When you scrape it, there is no green at all until you get to here. So this one is alive. So let's just, first of all, all this really long leggy growth is all coming off anyway. Some of it may be removed entirely. This is also dead right here. But at least right now, just to make it a whole lot easier to see where we're at and what we're doing. Okay. So this is all dead, all the way to here. And so I'm just going to take that off. And this branch is quite heavy, so I'm going to, but it's alive. We have some live growth here, but I really want the growth to be coming more out here. So I'm just going to cut it like this. And plan on new growth coming this way. Going to keep this as the first main branch. And then once again, just a little bit of wire, just to bring this guy back up to mimic the way that the old apex was before it died. This guy right here had a really nice little sweep. So we're going to wire this guy into place. And bring it up and try not to crack it this time. Okay, so there we go. And I'm going to reduce the first main branch. And it has a really heavy back branch that I'm also going to reduce quite a bit. And actually this branch here is also very vigorous. I could almost just take all of this off completely and bring this guy up and create a top with that. This appears dead. This piece right here is dead. Okay, remember, however long you leave a branch, that's typically where it's going to start growing from. So, and then this is also extremely root bound. This one seems to be in a coarser mix. If we check out the roots, I think you'll see it's in a much coarser mix. Also extremely root bound. Somewhere in there is the window screen. It also has an interesting nabari. Yep, there's the screen. Can we pull that out of there? Oof. Maybe I can cut the roots just above the screen. There we go. Okay, get rid of the perimeter roots, anything that's circling. And back into the same pot. Okay, some more window screen, and even though that was in a little coarser mix, I'm going to change it to this finer mix that I've got, mainly because the finer mix is all that I brought with me, and it'll work. Didn't really cut as much of the perimeter roots as I wanted, so I'm going to do that right now. There's an excellent correlation, for me at least, between a plant that roots very easily from cuttings and its ability to withstand pretty heavy duty root pruning. Alright, that looks pretty good. Get rid of this stuff. I do have a little piece of moss that I guess I'm going to, you can see it fell off right there, sticking on there once all the soil's on. And already These little guys are saying, thank you, thank you. It's a testament to just how tough Premna are, because a lot of trees would not survive being that root bound. Get the chopstick. Do I need to put that piece of moss back on there? Probably not. So there we go. Now if I can get something to come out here, promote this guy as the first main branch, and the apex needs to come up a little more. Don't snap it. There we go. Alright, number 2 is complete. Number 3 is very similar to number 2. Decent movement. So that's the beauty of these guys, is yes, I've neglected them, and yes, they're way overgrown. Now could you imagine all this growth? If I'd been pinching, it would all be in here nice and tight, and the tree would be so much prettier. However, so we're just going to take off all of that long, rangy growth. This tree seems to have a lot more of the limbs that are still alive. So we have some funky things. I think this one is dead. Yep, that one's dead. Which is unfortunate because it's coming right out of the outside of the curve, which is where I like my branches. And this one is coming out of the inside of the curve, where I don't want branches. The guy right there. So we're going to take him out of there. So that creates a giant gaping hole here, but I'm confident that I'll get some new growth. You know, there's a phenomenon called adventitious buds. Is that top dead too? I do believe it is. So, another big deal. We've still got a little bit here for the top. I'm going to shorten off all this other stuff. Sacrifice branch. Get rid of this little bit right here, which is dead. Okay, so once again, a pretty decent little tree. Just now needs to fill in with some branching. And as is the case with the other 2, and these guys are all very similar in age. They were worked sometime in the past pretty much as a group, and this one's going to be just as root bound. But just as easy to pull the roots away with my fingers. There's the wire, which is coming up much nicer. I can probably use that again. Which I will do. Okay, so let's continue here. Get the scissors. I want to chop all the way around the perimeter. So if you've watched any of my videos, you know I consider spring, quote unquote, to be about the 15th of February, because that's when you see new growth emerge on a lot of different things. And even though spring officially is not for another month, actually another 5 weeks in March, I live in such a mild climate. And I'm doing this right now on only the 1st of February, because like I said, we're already in the 80s. So I may save this funky stream of moss. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but okay, so get rid of that stuff. Where's the front? There's the front. Some more soil. He is also losing some of his moss. Well, maybe I can keep it. And I don't promote moss as far as, like, I don't put it on the trees like sod. It just shows up. And I've never really had a problem with moss appearing on my bonsai. It just shows up. If I could ever apply the soil without banging into the tree, push it down in there. You can already feel him saying, "I thank you." Okay, and then last, but not least, is as far as the number of leaves it's got, is by far the healthiest one of the bunch. And it also has a very nice movement. First branch, second branch, nice curve. Apex probably needs to come up a little bit. We have a sacrifice branch back here, which on a bonsai pot, the sacrifice branches sometimes don't do all that much. And then we have some decision making to do up into here. You know, this is this actually, I think this is dead. You can tell dead because it's just got a different color. Premna has kind of a gray bark, and dead wood is brown. So do I want the apex to come up a little, just a little like that? I think that will be, I can bring that guy into there to create a couple more pads up here. So let's do that. I still have some spare wire laying around. This piece is way too long, so we'll just start it way down here. This is old wire that I actually just took off of all of these guys. They did have some limbs that were wired. Some of the limbs that were wired were the ones that were also dead. Not to say that they died because they were wired. It just sort of happened that way. Okay, First main branch, there's sacrifice branch is gone. Second main branch, next branch here, next branch here. Work the apex. This guy could also come out here, but he's so weak right now, I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to cut this one back. Cut some of this stuff back. There's some more dead, is that correct? Yep. Right there is dead. So one thing about all four of these trees is I like the structure of the trees. They didn't lose their structure. They just don't have any ramification. And I have not tested this one, but I'm sure it's just as root bound as the others. Come on, baby. There we go. And the answer is not that bad. Actually, it's so weird because this tree is the healthiest as far as leaves, but the roots there's more brown roots, which are mostly dead. The only live roots are these white ones here. So there's an interesting paradox. And it's the same procedure, just as easy enough for me to do it with my fingers. No need for tools. Coming across some pretty heavy duty roots. This pot had 2 drain holes versus all the others that had 1. There's our mesh. Get rid of that circling root, which actually originates from there. Cut above the mesh to get it out of there. Although honestly I think it would continue to grow with the mesh. Wouldn't even notice. Another pretty big root right there that needs to come off. Cut around the perimeter. There we go. That's quite a smaller root ball proportionately than the others compared to the pot. Get rid of this stuff. And some more mesh, which I actually need to cut. And I think I'm just going to make one big long piece that goes across the whole pot to cover both drain holes. Makes sense to me. This one will need a little more soil in the bottom. I find it very interesting that the tree with the healthiest top had the least amount of nice white roots. Yeah, I want it to be like that, so it's leaning over. So actually, I guess that was the way it was. I still want it a little higher, so just a matter of taking a little more soil and making a mound. There we go. There we go. There's the apex, so it's still a little... Do we see the apex right there? Okay. It looks like I brought just enough soil. which I'm happy about. And another thing about, like, some of this moss I'm bearing, but it will re-emerge in no time at all. It will re-emerge in no time at all. So how are we looking? Very nice. Once again, get rid of the sacrifice branch. There's our tree. Now imagine it all with nice pads. And I think all four are going to make very nice Shohin trees. So there we go. So why don't we see if I can pull this off. Put them all back into the viewfinder. Get rid of that. And then see if we can't study them again. I may need to zoom out a little bit more. Okay, there's the mesh. Is the little guy in there? He is. Let's do this. So there we go. 4 rehabilitated Premna. And each of them has very nice movement. Most of them have good branching. This one here needs to really develop more. This one here needs to branch out this way. These two will probably be able to grow pads more quickly than those other two. But I think they can all do very nicely now. So this is like a whole new lease on life. Brand new soil, a good cutback. When they begin to sprout, I will give them some good fertilizer. And you'll be able to watch these guys continue to develop. And the best way to do that is to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And so every time I do a video on these guys, I will inform you. You'll get the notification. And I hate to admit it, but this is only part 1 because I've got a few more. Oops. I don't even want to tell you how many more. I don't even know how many more, but they're there out there on the bench. So we're going to do part 2. Same thing. All Premna. All in need of the very same treatment as these guys. So thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. In the comment section, maybe tell me which one is your favorite. My guess is that this guy here is going to get the most votes because it's my favorite. Although they all can make nice trees. I was very disappointed that this guy lost its whole top, but in a few months you'd never even notice unless I took this video. And that's part of the reason I started this channel was I have a lot of trees like this that just don't seem to be able to get to. So now that I've got the channel and I'm working them like this, I can't let them go into another state of neglect. So they're going to be cared for much better because I'm now answering to you. So please subscribe, hit the notification bell, hit that like button. Please comment. You know, all that stuff sends the algorithm to more and more people. And so there you go. 4 Premna, root pruned and rehabilitated. And stay tuned for the update on these guys. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.